Joe Lum here. It's another Monday. It's the time for another Joe Lum album review. But this week I'm doing a double feature. I'm going to be reviewing two Slayer albums. The first one I'm going to be reviewing is South of Heaven, released in 1988. As always, when you're done watching this episode, you can go back and check out past album review episodes. The playlist is in the description box. South of Heaven is Slayer's fourth studio record. Released on July 5th, 1988 by Def Jam Recordings. The album was the band's second collaboration with producer Rick Rubin, whose production skills on their previous record, Rain in Blood, had helped their sound evolve. Given the frenetic pace of Rain in Blood, Slayer made no attempt to top it on South of Heaven. Rather, the band offset and complemented Rain in Blood by deliberately slowing down the tempo on South of Heaven, as well as by utilizing undistorted guitars and toned down vocals. It was the band's last album released by Def Jam, although the rights were transferred to Rubin's new label, Def American Recordings, after Rubin ended his partnership with Russell Simmons. The album was one of only two Def Jam titles to be distributed by Geffen Records through Warner Brothers, as Def Jam's then distributor Columbia refused to release work by the band. The album South of Heaven was recorded in Los Angeles at Hit City West, with producer Rick Rubin, who produced the recent album Rain in Blood. According to Pop Matters reviewer Adrian Bergrand, he observed that Rubin's production shoves Dave Lombardo's drumming right up front in the mix. Guitarist Jeff Hanneman has since said that South of Heaven was the only album that the band members discussed before writing the music. Aware that they couldn't top Rain in Blood, and that whatever record we would be compared to that album, he believed that they had to slow down, something Slayer had never done on albums before or since. Guitarist Kerry King cited the need to keep people guessing as another reason for the musical shift, in order to contrast the aggressive assault put forth on Rain in Blood. Slayer consciously slowed down the tempo of the album as a whole, according to Slayer's official biography. They also added elements like undistorted guitars and toned down vocal styles not heard on previous albums. King has since been critical of his performance, which he describes as his most lackluster. He attributes this to the fact that he had recently married and moved to Phoenix, Arizona, describing himself as probably the odd man out at that point. He stated that he didn't participate as much as because of that. Hanneman said, "We go through dry spells sometimes, but the good thing about having two guitar players that can write music is that you're never going to go without." I guess at the time Carey was hitting a dry spell. King has also been critical of the album in general, describing it as one of his least favorite Slayer albums. He feels singer Tom Araya's moved too far away from his regular vocal style and added too much singing. Drummer Dave Lombardo has since observed there was fire on all the records, but it started dimming when South of Heaven came into the picture. And that's him personally saying that. Again, he was probably wanting something else. Judas Priest, Descendant Aggressor, is the first cover version to appear on Slayer's studio album. The song was chosen due to its war-themed lyrics. Hanneman described the track as more just like one of those odd songs that a lot of people didn't know, but it was a favorite of Carey and his, so they picked that one. Meanwhile, Cleanse the Soul has been heavily criticized by King, who said he hates the track. That's one of the black marks in our history in his book. He just fucking hated it. He thought it was horrible. He hated the opening riff. It's what they call a happy riff. It's just like la 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 la. He can't see himself playing it, but after that, where it gets heavier, he liked that section. A lot of the music was done by Jeff Hanneman. The lyrics were done as noted on the track listing. As the title track, South of Heaven, with lyrics done by Tom Araya, clocks in at 4:58. Tom Araya also did the lyrics for Silent Scream and Kerry King co-wrote the music with Jeff Hanneman, clocks in at 3:07. Tom Araya and Kerry King wrote the lyrics to Live Undead, clocks in at 3:50. Behind the Crooked Cross with lyrics done by Jeff Hanneman, clocks in at 3:15. Mandatory Suicide with lyrics done by Tom Araya with music co-written by King, clocks in at 4:05. Ghosts of War with lyrics done by Kerry King and music done by Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman, clocks in at 3:53. Read Between the Lines, lyrics done by Tom Araya and Kerry King, clocks in at 3:20. Cleanse the Soul, also with lyrics done by Araya and King, clocks in at 3:02. The Judas Priest cover of Descendant and Aggressor, written by Rob Halford, K.K. Downing, and Glenn Tipton, clocks in at 2:35. And Spill the Blood, with lyrics done by Jeff Hanneman, clocks in at 4:48. As mentioned earlier, South of Heaven was released on July 5th, 1988. That was the final Slayer album distributed by Def Jam Records, when label co-founders Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin parted ways. Slayer was signed to Rubin's newly founded Def American Recordings label. The album peaked at number 57 on the Billboard 200 charts, and on November 20th of 1992 came Slayer's second album to be certified gold in the United States. South of Heaven was awarded silver certification in the UK on New Year's Day of 1993, the first record to do so in that country. Slayer's official biography states that some critics praise the album as demonstrating Slayer's desire to grow musically and avoid repeating themselves. Alex Henderson of AllMusic described the record as disturbing and powerful, while Joe Matera of Ultimate Guitar deemed the album a slight departure. He wrote, "While the pace was slowed down, it didn't sacrifice any of the heaviness inherited in Slayer's music." Kim Neely of Rolling Stone dismissed the album as genuinely offensive satanic drive. However, the magazine would later rank the album 47th on the 2017 100 Greatest Metal Albums of All Time list. Michael Roberts of Westworld Online said that this was due to some of the numbers moving at the sludgier speed of Black Sabbath. Araya commented that the album was a late bloomer. It wasn't really received well, but it kind of grew on everybody later. Decibel inducted South of Heaven into the magazine Hall of Fame in January of 2013. Due to Jeff Hanneman's death in May of the same year, South of Heaven would be the second and final classic Slayer album to receive an induction in the Decibel's Hall of Fame. The overall rating for Slayer's South of Heaven is a 75 out of 100. Now, to be fair, this album was not at the level that Rain in Blood was, but you got to admit, when it comes to positions on the Billboard 200 charts, South of Heaven ranked higher than Rain in Blood. But in fairness, Rain in Blood was still a popular album than South of Heaven. Did you know that both Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King really got into heated arguments over the whole album in general, because most of the music was done by Jeff, and with the exception of 3 songs, Silent Scream, Mandatory Suicide, and Ghost of War, which King contributed. And to be honest with you, I think Kerry King was not really a fan of the album to begin with, so take it as you will. The second half of this double feature of this week's Joel album review happens to come from the follow-up to Slayer's South of Heaven, and that's Slayer's 5th record, Seasons in the Abyss. Seasons in the Abyss is the 5th studio record from Slayer, released on October 9th, 1990 through Def American Records. Recording sessions began in March of 1990 at Hit City West and Hollywood Sound, and ended in June of 1990 at the record plant in Los Angeles, California. It was the band's last record to feature their full original lineup with drummer Dave Lombardo until his return on the band's Christ Delusion. Seasons in the Abyss's musical style has been compared by critics to the band's previous 2 records, South of Heaven and Rain in Blood. As mentioned, the album was recorded from March to June of 1990 in 2 separate studios, Hit City West, Hollywood Sound and a record plant in Los Angeles, California. Seasons in the Abyss was produced by Rick Rubin, who had also produced their two previous albums, Rain and Blood and South of Heaven. Track 8 is called Temptation, featured an overdub of lead singer Tom Araya singing, and the vocal arrangement on the track is unintentional. Araya sang the song twice, once the way he felt it sounded best, the second time at the insistence of Kerry King the way he thought it should be sung. By accident, both tracks were played simultaneously. King liked the way it sounded together, and so it was left that way for the final version. According to Nathan Brackett, author of Rolling Stone Album Guide, Seasons in the Abyss continued the band's sound as displayed in their first 4 albums. The songs on the album have complex guitar riffs that proceed at both blinding speed tempos and mid-tempo hefts. Brackett said that the song's themes shy away from the fantasy into the hell here on Earth, and instead was music to conquer nations by. DeathMetal.org characterized Seasons in the Abyss as an onslaught of sonic distortion with abrupt 2-string chord barrage and a ripping roar of an unleashed tremolo strumming, which accentuates the melody in a hummingbird wing beat technique, similar to Discharge's Hear Nothing, See Nothing, Say Nothing. The album contains longer, whole interval phrases and chromatic extensions compared to previous Slayer albums. The album combines grim vocals and frenetic guitars. Blabbermouth.net said that the album is considered to be among the genre's all-time classics. War Ensemble, Dead Skin Mask, and Seasons in the Abyss were described as setting the album's standard, as the songs, according to the site, produced a sound that could not be matched by anyone else. American serial killer Ed Gein was the inspiration for writing the song Dead Skin Mask. AllMusic said it combines the mid-tempo grooves of South of Heaven with the manic bursts and aggression a la Rain and Blood. AllMusic also said that when writing the album's lyrics, Slayer rarely turns to demonic visions of the afterlife anymore, preferring instead to find tangible horror in real life, war, murder, and human weakness. There's even full-fledged social criticism, which should convince any doubters that Slayer aren't trying to promote these subjects they sing about. Time to check out the track listing. War Ensemble, written by Jeff Hanneman and Tom Araya, clocks in at 4:51. Blood Red, written by Tom Araya and Jeff Hanneman, clocks in at 2:47. Spirit in Black, written by Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman, clocks in at 4:07. Expendable Youth, written by Tom Araya and Kerry King, clocks in at 4:09. Dead Skin Mask, written by Tom Araya and Jeff Hanneman, clocks in at 5:20. Hollowed Point, written by Jeff Hanneman, Tom Araya, and Kerry King, clocks in at 3:23. Skeletons of Society, written by Kerry King, clocks in at 4:40. Another song written by Kerry King called Temptation, clocks in at 3:25. Born of Fire, written by Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman, clocks in at 3:07. And the title track, which closes the album, Seasons in the Abyss, written by Tom Araya and Jeff Hanneman, clocks in at 6:34. Slayer's Seasons in the Abyss was released on October 9th, 1990 through Deaf American Records. Later that year, it was released again through Warner Music Group. It was re-released in 1994 through American Recordings. Although it was unwelcome to music shows and rock radio outlets, it got substantial airplay on MTV's Headbangers Ball. Seasons in the Abyss features Slayer's first music video, filmed at the Giza Plateau in Giza, Egypt. The album received generally positive reviews by critics. In a retrospective review, AllMusic Steve Huey said that it brought back some of the pounding speed of Rain and Blood for their third major label album, and addressed it to be their most accessible album, displaying the full range of their abilities all in one piece. Sharp, clean production. Huey also wrote the album paints Reagan-era America as a cesspool of corruption and cruelty. The music is as devilishly effective as ever. Since its release, Seasons in the Abyss peaked at number 40 on the Billboard 200, number 18 on the UK Albums Chart. It was certified gold in both the United States and Canada. The title track and War Ensemble earned Slayer its heaviest airplay on MTV to date. In 2016, Loudwire ranked Seasons in the Abyss number 2 among Slayer's 11 studio albums. I ranked it number 1 when I did a album rankings video on Slayer. You can check that out yourself. At the 1991 Foundations Forum, the music video for the title track won a Concrete Foundations Award for Best Video, tying with Jane's Addiction's Been Caught Stealing. The overall rating for Slayer's Seasons in the Abyss, 85 out of 100. Seasons in the Abyss received a generally positive reception, peaking in the top 40 in the US Billboard 200, later certified gold in the US and Canada, reached the top 20 in the UK. By 2017, and as of this recording, it has sold over 813,000 copies in the United States since the Nielsen SoundScan inception. Which is awesome, by the way. They could have gone platinum. I guess they don't want to go platinum for some stupid reason. Anyway, I like the songs War Ensemble, Blood Red, Spared in Black, Expendable Youth, Dead Skin Mask, Hollowed Point, Skeletons of Society, and of course, the album closer, Seasons in the Abyss. That'll do it for this week's Joe Lum's album review. This has been a double feature.
Don't you believe it?